The British were becoming increasingly concerned how the Americans' increasingly antagonistic relationship with their neighbors was influencing Parliament's foreign policy. They were also becoming frustrated with how the colonies were skirting their financial obligations to the Crown. They started instituting heavy-handed approaches to influence colonial policy. The first came in 1696 when the Board of Trade was established. The effort was to strengthen the different customs boards to limit smuggling. Much of this originated with the British belief that their colonies were maintained to benefit English manufacturing. The colonies were expected to pay tariffs on all the goods that the British imported to their colonies in addition to purchasing the goods that were shipped. While the colonists loved British goods, they loved paying as little as possible for them much more. So luxury goods were supposed to be watched over closely by the Board of Trade. Wool cloth, hats, and finished iron products were of the most special interest. Then in 1733, the Molasses Act was passed to try to keep New England from illicit trade with the West Indies, a French colony. In addition to keeping the colony's money going toward Parliament, this would minimize any benefits the French would receive at the colonists' expense. Around this time, the French were jockeying the British for control of the Western American frontier. By the 1740s, British settlers were moving west of the Allegheny Mountain Range. By 1750, Parliament had sanctioned a company and charged it with establishing a post in Ohio. But the French were jealous of their fur trade west of the Allegheny Mountains. But the British had begun to use the American interior as a source for revenue. It had become a place to deposit British manufactured products and for exporting raw materials back to England. So when the French began to try and force the colonists out of the interior, Parliament told their colonists to meet force with force. Colonel George Washington was told to head into Northwest Virginia, which led to his eventual embarrassing surrender at Fort Necessity. Washington's failure was in part going to convince Parliament that the British were going to need to maintain a professional fighting force to protect their American colonies from their French rivals. The issue was going to be ongoing and expensive, and while Parliament figured it would only be natural for the American colonists to foot some of that bill, it would sow the seeds for the eventual movement toward American independence.